Okay, and we're live on YouTube. Welcome back again. So we've had quite a bit of a think about what projects we want to do. And what we need to do now is figure out which of those ideas are going to go forward. Now, there's a lot of commonality across some of the ideas. So I think there's ample room for merging the ideas into a smaller group of projects and still get everybody to do something that they're interested in. Okay. Like I said, I do want you to do something you're interested in, because you're going to be doing this until December. By the time you get to November or thereabouts, you will probably not like the project, or it'll have been quite a struggle at times. But that's okay. That's what projects tend to do. But you should still like what you've achieved by the end of it, and it should be something nice, right? Something relevant, something good. So that's where we are. Excuse me. We sort of did the KJ analysis last week. That was the effort we did with the sticky notes and all the requirements on the board. I'm starting to think now, next time I run that exercise, I will probably do it in two separate stages. I'll do the functional requirements separately from the non-functional or cross-functional requirements, because I think there's things there. The other thing I think I might add, and I'm not quite sure how to do it, and we might look about doing it after the Good Friday break, and that is a piece about technology selection. Right? There's lots of stuff we could use. A lot of people have mentioned using the Raspberry Pi. A lot of people have mentioned networking. And usually with requirements, you try and avoid making specific statements about technology. The reason you do it is because unless you really know the field that you're working in, there may be better solutions. And part of what we do once we've made our down select is we spend more time next both detailing what we want to build, but also looking at how we're going to build it. Most of what we've done to date shouldn't have been about how. It shouldn't have been about the technology, unless there was a very specific thing like networking. It's a bit hard to talk about honeypots without talking about networking. It's a bit hard to talk about getting data out of a car without talking about ODB2. So there it's valid, but just talking of there's lots of other small high-powered computing devices that are not Raspberry Pis, and some of them are cheaper than Raspberry Pis. Some of them do different things better than Raspberry Pis. So it really depends exactly on what you're trying to achieve. Okay, so let's move forward. So where we need to go to next is, like I said, the down select, and the first deliverable that you have after that down select is a written proposal. and I'd call it that written proposal a system requirements document. If it were a software only project, then I'd call it a software requirements specification. But because what we're doing involves probably both hardware and software, we need to think about the project as a system rather than just the software component. So the piece we really need to do to highlight next is we really need to get the requirements down, and that's what the proposal is about, right? The project proposal. I've asked you to do shall statements, and you all have. But we need to flesh some of those out a little bit more. And I talked about what goes into it previously, but I want to talk again after we've done the down select, what goes into that project proposal. Right? And then the other thing on this diagram before we shift gears is it's often worthwhile thinking about what are the key pieces in the architecture. And a way to think about that architecture is through two diagrams. One of them is what I would call a use case diagram, and the other one is what I would call a deployment diagram. Right? And the use case diagram is still about requirements, but it's about how the system interacts with the people who are interested in it. And then now the deployment diagram is starting to talk about what are we building, or rather how are we building it. What are the key physical pieces that we need? Do we need a computing engine? Maybe it's a Raspberry Pi. Do we need motors? Do we need a battery? Or are we going to use mains power? Do we need a transformer if we're using mains power? All of those sorts of questions. We won't have a design, but at least we will have sort of pieces of a jigsaw puzzle that then we need to detail in the next steps in the high-level design and detailed design. Okay, so we've done most of these. I probably should have added shall statements here, right? And remember, I use shall as a way to say that is something we have to do. Other people use lots of different words to imply that, but if you're writing requirements documents, it's best to keep to precisely the same statement. And as I said, some people add words that prevaricate, that are vague, like could or would or should. And as soon as you see those words, forget about the sentences they're in until somebody yells at you about those removal of those sentences. And then if they really, really, really want whatever they were talking about, then you need to rewrite the sentence using the word shall. As soon as you start adding uncertainty to whether you're going to do something or not, one set of people will assume you're not going to do it, and the other set of people will assume you are going to do it, and they won't realize which is happening until too late. So you're better off having that sort of an argument right at the beginning of the project. So everybody's on as the same page, right? Everybody understands the same thing. So there's our board from last week, and I think it sort of, part of the reason I do this exercise is to get everybody to understand each other's projects, right? There's lots of good ideas and different in the details, but still pretty good. Okay, so what I want to do now is I've identified, I think, 5 key projects that we could move forward with. And I've amalgamated several of them together. And I still think 5 is too many, because that means we're pairing up. There's only 10 people in the class. I would still prefer to try and get to Professor Broderick's preferred team size of pi, given that Pi Day's this Sunday, right? 3.14. Not that we're going to cut anybody up to get that 0.14, but around 3. So I'm thinking we're better off going for 3, maybe 4 projects, depending on what's happening. Okay, so they're I think they're the ideas that came out of our discussion, right? Parking garage automation, ODB2 car information, network security, home security, and fridge automation. So I'm just going to go down the class and ask you if there's anything else you want to throw onto that list. So Anthony, do you want to let us know if there's something else that should be added to the list, or if you think something you wanted to do is missed out?
Not really. I think it is good to get down to par for groups. I don't think we should be trying to add anything.
Okay, thank you. Bright, how about you? Are you okay with this list?
Yeah, that looks good to me. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Eric, how about you?
Looks good to me.
Okay. Fahim?
The same to me. It looks good.
Okay. Kyle Fields?
Looks good.
Kyle Bechtold? And we've got sorry, my mouse is... Okay, thanks, Kyle. Michael Federick?
Looks good to me.
Okay, and Michael Paloka?
Looks good to me.
Okay, very good. So, what I'd like to do is do a bit of a vote, and I've put in the capstone materials chat a link which should take you to this this page, right? And I've just put the 5 items on there. and as you can see, I'm going to kick off a vote, and you'll get 2 votes each. So we should have a total of 20, and we'll, once the vote is over, we'll have a look at what the results are and see what that tells us. Okay, I think I've set it up so everything's private, so you won't see anything. I'm going to put a time limit. If everybody's done, we can. I think it'll finish, but let's make it a 5-minute time. Excuse me, and I'm going to kick off the. So vote for any 2 of these, and I'm going to start the voting. Okay, so we got don't take the fridge automation away. Oops, don't make it so big. Let me just move. Oops, it's not moving. Let's move it. There we go. I'll put it back in line-ish. There we go. So we've got 5 people have voted so far. Anybody else? 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's Bright. Eric, you coming on? Fahim? Try not to move them around. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people locked in, 8 people locked in, 2 people missing. Who we got missing? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Oh, we're missing 2 people today. Who are we missing? I've forgotten. I should have called the roll. Let's just I don't think I don't think Julio's part of the capstone group. So who are we missing? We're missing Jacob and Michael Gallagher. Okay, so we're missing 2 people. But we've got everybody who is here has voted, so I'm going to end the voting and let's see what we end up with. Okay, I think that's pretty clear, right? We've got the parking garage automation, we've got home security, and we've got fridge automation. So I think that looks pretty good. And I should have made that the right size.
I think it was at one point. It just got
Yeah, I started.
changed a little.
Yeah, I started moving it, and I got it wrong, so it's okay. Okay, so I think we've got our three projects to go forward with. Now the question is, who's doing what? Right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create... actually, I'll do that later. So let me go back to OneNote. So parking, home security, and fridge automation. So where are we? We've got the parking one. We've got home security, and we've got fridge automation. Now, we don't have Michael Gallagher or Jacob Nowak. So we'll have to see where they fit into this. So Fahim, I'm assuming you're going to be interested in the parking garage one, right?
Kind of.
I would hope so, since you proposed it. And to tell you the truth, I have forgotten who did the fridge automation. Was that you, Eric? Was that? I can't remember. Who proposed the fridge one?
That was me.
Michael.
Michael Pete.
Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, I'm assuming you're going to be interested in continuing on with that. Yeah.
Yeah, you can put me down for it.
Okay. Good. So then, home security. I know there were a few people, and Michael Federick, I know your project was more around drones, but it was specifically about using a drone in home security. So I'm assuming you're okay with going on to the home security project, yes?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That sounds good.
Okay. So, Kyle Bechtold, which of the three do you want to move on to? If you can...
His mic doesn't work.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at the capstone discussion channel to see. That's why I thought I'd give him first go, because he can't shout over the top of the rest of us. Okay, so home security, we can do that. So
Where's the capstone channel? I'm not seeing that.
yeah, I know you're not on the capstone group, so I've hidden all the non the capstone stuff from the non capstone students, Julio. So okay.
Yeah, whoops.
So who's next? Kyle Fields. Any thoughts?
What's up?
Yeah, what project do you want to do?
Ooh, I like the parking garage automation one.
Okay.
First.
Very good. So Kyle F. And we know Fahim. Eric, which of the three are you interested in going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. I'll take the fridge automation.
Okay. And Bright, I think you were interested in the home security, is that right?
Sorry, my mic was off. Yeah. I'll take the home security.
Okay. And Anthony.
So I'm gonna pull 180 here. I'm gonna go with fridge automation.
Yeah, that's okay. 180s are fine at the appropriate time, and this is an appropriate time. Okay. So we've got two missing people. Right? Michael Gallagher and Jacob. I think at least one of those should join the parking garage group. But I'll be in touch with them and see. Right? But I think this is a really good start. I will just make a note to say that I need to contact them. Okay. I know, I don't know about Michael G. I think Jacob has work commitments that sometimes get in the way of this class. Okay, so that's where we are. So we've got three. I think they're all good ideas for projects, but we've got three good projects to go forward with. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up separate text and voice channels for each group, and they'll be private to each group. So you'll be able to, if you need to, meet privately over Discord in each of those channels and share links and stuff in the appropriate chat channels. I'll do that after class today, and only the people within each project will be able to see those particular voice and chat channels. Okay, so let's move on. So I thought I should start talking about the project proposal by talking about how I'm going to grade it, right? And Professor Broderick has a much more detailed rubric that I'm going to go through, but its headline information are these pieces, right? The summary or the abstract, a statement of need, the project description, the organisational information, a budget, a schedule, and then conclusions and references. In order to justify the statement of need, in order to justify the budget, you're going to have to do a bit of background reading. The statement of need, I want you to connect what your project is to the outside world. Maybe that's the social outside world, maybe it's the commercial outside world, maybe it's the government outside world, but that's going to require a little bit of research on each team's part. The stuff we're going to do from now on is going to be completely team-based. There will be an occasional individual assessment, but it's going to be based on how each person works within their team, and it'll be partially based on peer assessment. So your teammates will tell me whether you're pulling your weight or not. Last time I had 6 teams of 3, and I got completely uniform. Everybody was very supportive of everybody else, and that's great. So there was no real changes to grades based on peer review. Sometimes, not so much in Capstone, in some other project-based courses that I've taught, you get some people who, for whatever reason, don't pull their weight, and that puts a lot of stress on the rest of the team, because particularly if it's only a team of size 3, then you've got 2 people needing to do 150% of a normal workload in order to achieve a decent outcome. But I'll talk more about peer assessment later. Once we've worked together a bit more as a team. So this thing here, the abstract or the summary, you write that last, right? You really can't finish it until the rest of the report is done, the rest of the proposal is done. The statement of need, this is the background, right? Or the motivation, that sort of stuff. The project description, this is starting to get more technical. This is about the requirements. And I'm going to talk about the requirements in a little bit. I want you to use shall statements to describe what the project is going to do. I also want you to use use case diagrams to show what the project will do. And I've talked about those before, but I want to talk about them again. Organizational information. In any team, there are various roles that people have to play, and everybody can't do everything. So I want you to figure out who's doing what. And the usual sorts of roles are team lead, software lead, hardware lead, archivist, submitter. The submitter is the person who is on the hook for making sure that the team submits the deliverables that I'm looking for. Right, so it's best to have just one person on the team responsible for that. The archivist, one of the things I'm going to ask you to do from now on is to, as a team, meet weekly. And I will give you some time during class to do that. But you need to meet weekly, and you need to record that you met weekly. And I'm going to set up within Blackboard the ability to write a journal entry. And the journal entries are going to be pretty small. But and I'll talk more about them later. But that's what the archivist does. They keep track of all the documents. Go ahead. Yep.
A question about that. Would it be just limited to the archivist, or can everyone in the group see that list?
Oh no! Everybody in the group should be able to see the list. And it's not that the archivist is the only person who does that. It's just the archivist is the person responsible if it doesn't get done. Right?
He's on the hook.
Yeah, exactly. A boss of mine used to, I'm not quite sure whether it's, he used to call the person responsible the belly button, because if whatever it was didn't happen, then he needed a belly button that he needed to poke in order to to get it done. He didn't want to have to run around everybody in the organisation to figure out who'd been charged with getting the whatever the thing was done. So then we need a budget, right? And I think I've said there is available from the school around about $150 for you to spend on equipment. But before you spend anything, I need to know what it is, and you need to justify it in your budget. And we'll talk more about that as we develop the proposal. The next thing is the schedule. And I'm not quite sure how to do this. What I'm thinking this time around is actually, let me wonder if I've got previous posts. Did I do that? Let's see if I can find the previous channel. No, I don't know whether I got the previous channel. No, I probably don't. Oh, maybe I can find it. Yeah, let me see if I can find it. So what I did last time around is I don't know what happened to it. That's 497, that's why. Yeah, let's just open that one up. So what I did is I asked every student group to report on, and now this was for 498 rather than 497. Every week I asked for each student group to report on how they were doing with their project as a whole. Right, that's that one. Let me just see if I can make it a bit bigger so the video can see it a bit better. Right, the project as a whole. If we should stop going, there we go. And these other columns are the various deliverables that we put together in 498. The detailed design document, the detailed design presentation, the final design document, and the final design presentation. Okay, and then we just plotted those reported numbers. These are just the overall overall numbers for each of the projects. And the idea is that if it were a perfect project without any lumpiness in terms of getting stuff done, then that thin dashed line, straight line, would be the way your project should progress. And then these are the different projects, and the idea was that if you're above the dashed line, then you're doing okay, and if you're below the dashed line, then you're a bit behind. And what I'm going to try and do this time around is for the schedule is I want you to think about the week, what things you need to do each week between probably the end of April, which is probably when we'll finish doing this project proposal, and the end of December. Every team I've seen has had great ideas about getting stuff done on their capstone project over the summer. It never happens. So I would suggest taking a chunk of time out of the summer and do what you intend to do over the summer, whether that's work or play or a bit of both. Feel free to do some capstone work. I'm not saying don't. I'm just saying plans to do capstone work go awry, so that by the time if you count on that time, by the time you come back in the fall semester, you're already behind before you've started the semester. So that's not a good way to start the semester. And then the conclusion is basically an overall summary of the rest of the report, and as I said, references back up certainly the budget, because you need to be able to refer to prices on Amazon or DigiKey or wherever you're purchasing stuff or intending to purchase stuff from. You may need to reference stuff for the requirements, and you'll certainly need to reference stuff for the motivation. Any questions about that rubric? Okay. So the aim is to write out in more detail what we're going to do, why we're going to do it, and who we're going to do it from, and what the benefit is. And I'm not going to be too concerned with the financial feasibility. I am going to require a budget, but we really don't have the, I don't know about whether it's the expertise, but we don't really have the ability to do a huge market survey. If there is a way to, so some things, right, there's two things with the financial feasibility. There's costs, which you do need to do, that's your budget, right? But the other thing that you can look at for financial feasibility is your potential competitors, right? Existing products. and that may tell you what they sell for. Okay, and then you can compare the cost that you estimate building your device is going to accrue, and then you can compare that with the price. Now, years ago, I used to work for a company that made microwave transmission links. And they were really nice links. They were really small. They were about the size of a matchbox, but they could go several miles, and they were very nice devices. The trouble was, our devices had better specifications than our nearest competitor, but ours were not selling. And we couldn't understand it. The competitor device at the time was selling for about 10,000 Australian dollars a pop, and our device was selling for 2,000. So it was 1/5 the price, and it had better specs. We thought it had better specs, but it wasn't selling. And so the company hired a marketing director, and he did two things. The boxes we were putting the microwave gear in, they were aluminium, or aluminum, as you say in this country, and we just painted the boxes. He suggested we anodize them, which makes it look a lot prettier. You get that metal sheen still, rather than having a paint color. So we made them look a little snazzier, and then he put the price up to $8,000 a pop for exactly the same thing, except in a prettier box. And they started selling like hotcakes, because now the issue previously had been that our potential customers looked at the price compared with our competitor and said, "Oh, I don't believe that's anywhere near as good as the really expensive one. So I'm not going to buy that. I'm going to buy the one I know that works." Whereas when he jacked the price up to within 20% of the competitor's price, now they started, potential customers thought, "Oh, that must be pretty much the same quality as the expensive one, but it's cheaper. I might just buy one of those to try it out." And they bought them and tried it out, and that opened the floodgates, because all of a sudden it was a viable competitor, whereas previously the thought was, because of the price, it wasn't a viable competitor. So you can compare your idea with maybe not the same product, maybe it's not available directly, but you can compare it with some other things. Technical feasibility. Even though you're senior students, there may be something you need to learn still, right? So you need to identify any holes in your team's skill sets and figure out, how you're going to fill them. And then now that there's a group of you, you're going to have to go through and figure out what are you actually going to build, and what are the functional, and I should take that norm off there, cross-functional requirements. Because now that there's going to be a little difference of opinion, and sometimes that actually, well, usually that actually improves the product idea, because you bring a different views to the table. So I do want you to try and go through the financial feasibility estimate and see what you think, whether the product is financially viable. For the purposes of your project, it doesn't matter whether it's financially viable or not. But I do want you to go through the costings and the exercise of figuring out what you think it could sell for. How many can you sell? How big is the market? Who are your customers? What do they want? And then there's various ways you can measure how good or otherwise the product is. There's return on investment, which says, okay, given that I sell this much and it costs this much, if I rolled all of that up into today's dollars, what is the value of the project? So you need to do a discounted cash flow analysis to discount all of those future profits and expenditures and bring it back to today's dollars. And then the other way to look at measuring it is an internal rate of return. And again, that's a comes out of a discounted cash flow analysis, but instead of bringing the value of the project back to dollars, right? This return on investment is a dollar value. This rate of return is more about, okay, I'm going to spend this much money to build this product, and I'm going to get whatever the dollar's return on investment is. If I took the amount of money that I'm going to spend on the product and invested it in a bank account, what percentage return does that bank account need to give me in order to match the return on investment figure? Okay, that's what the internal rate of return is aimed at giving. And they, if the return on investment is positive, then you're going to get an internal rate of return that's positive. The other figure of merit that is sometimes used is a thing called the break-even time. Right, you're going to start the project by spending money or time, and eventually you're going to start selling things. How long does it take between the start of the project and the amount of revenue you raise be equal to the amount you spent on development? Well, development and sales. Right, so once you reach that point, then you've spent as much as you brought in. So anything after that, any extra revenue after that, over future costs, is going to be profit. And this was, I think I gave this example before, right? So, and this isn't really that relevant, but it does show you the sorts of things, right? You've got, what are the tangible benefits? And tangible benefits are basically anything that you can quantify in dollars. And then here are the, what I would call NRE costs, right? Non-recurring engineering costs. They're one-off costs that need to be incurred in order to build the product. And then there's operational costs. Okay. And then here's the return on investment. Here's the internal rate of return. And here's the break-even point. And I can share this spreadsheet with you once we get a bit further along. We might have an exercise in class to get it done for each project. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
Okay. So, technical feasibility. Is the project physically possible? Do we have the technology? Captain. Right? Does the, like I said, the main thing I would worry about is, do you have the skills to implement the solution? And part of this course is for you to develop new skills to implement the project. Right? So there is certainly time here. But we have to identify what is needed early so we can prepare and have the time to do that development, that skill development. Is it possible for the proposed solution to meet performance requirements? Are there ethical security concerns? Have you decided on what you're doing, or is it going to change? Are you going to change your mind? One thing that I do want to see on most projects are the power requirements. Last cohort, I forgot to do a power budget for each project. And some of the projects had problems with power. They didn't have enough batteries. So, but I actually did it for the first cohort I took through, and it worked out pretty well. So I will get you to do a power budget. Even if you're looking at running off mains power, it's still worthwhile doing a power budget. And we've already done the requirements, so I'm not going to talk about this. Just to say that functional is what the thing does, and cross-functional is more holistic. It's about the whole system, and it's about usually quantifiable performance figures. Sometimes it's to do with aesthetics. And I've talked about use cases before, but let me just go to, this is the main diagram of use cases. So let's what did we go? Parking garage automation, home security, and fridge automation. Right, so let's think about, right, so for let's go over here. Let's just think about the actors for each of the projects, right? So there's the parking garage. There's home security. And there's the fridge automation. I don't know whether that was the right word, but anyway. So parking, one actor would be the driver, right? That's certainly one actor. I'm thinking you may also need the car, right? Because one of the things that you need to do, I believe, is detect the car. The car isn't, you're not making the car, so it's outside your system, but you're going to need to interact or at least detect the car. And then I'm wondering whether there's a garage operator that needs to somehow interact with the system. I don't know. And again, another non-human actor is the actual garage itself. You're going to need to physically integrate your system with the parking garage. And so you need to think about that, right? So even though I've drawn my very simple use case diagram like this, right? All of a sudden now we've got 4 actors, and there might be more. I don't know. Depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? For home security, let's think about home security. Well, the first person I can think about is the homeowner, right? They want to do, they want to feel secure in their home. And I suspect another actor might be pets. I don't know whether you heard my dog earlier, but there's an aspect of home security that needs to not set off an alarm when the cat jumps on a table, or the dog pulls down the curtains, or whatever is happening, right? There's an intruder, right? The person you want to detect. And then I don't know whether this is part of what you're thinking, but maybe you need to have a contact with the emergency services, right? Fire, ambulance, or police, potentially. Maybe it's not emergency services, maybe it's a monitoring service, right? ADT or somebody like that. And ADT then probably pulls in the emergency services. But again, it's something you want to think about. And then the fridge project, I think the fridge owner, if that's the right word, I think there is, and again, it's not a person, it's a non-human actor. There's the food that you want to monitor or keep track of. And then again, I don't know what the what else you need to do, but maybe you need to get information about the food, right? So whether that's from a grocery store or from some other food info provider, right? And then the other piece, and maybe all of these could do with it. I'm not sure whether you want to do something like notifications, right? You might need a notification provider. But that might be separate, because I think all of these could probably want notifications at some point. I suppose that's the emergency services piece out of home security. Okay, so that's an attempt at finding the roles or the actors for each of the projects. And then you've got to figure out what the use cases are, right? And each use case is going to have at least, it needs a verb, a doing word, and some description of what it's actually doing. And then the other piece or pieces are, who is it doing it for? If we've got 4 actors, we're not doing the same functions, or we're not involving all actors in all functions necessarily. Maybe we do, but we certainly don't want to involve the intruder in arming the system or disarming the system, right? We want to try and avoid having somebody we don't want deactivate the system, right? So there's a bit of thought, and again, I like lucid.app, and what you can do is you can go here and do a lucid document, and if we open that up, there's all sorts of shapes here. I usually like using the actual UML shapes, right? And there's a use case. They're the use case pictures, right? And I usually just pull, I don't know whether I can pull those out. Right, so then I can drop an actor there, I can drop a use case, and I can drop the system boundary. And we don't want the actor inside, actually. The actor is usually outside, it's the use case that's inside. Because remember, this is our system boundary. And everything inside the system is part of the thing we need to build, and everything outside the system is stuff we need to interact with that we can't change. So that's pretty easily available, and you can, I think you can export, right, into various formats: PDF, PNG, JPEG, SVG. So what I would like for you to do between now and next week is to have a go at putting together your team's use case diagram. Okay. I wonder if I can try and do this now. Okay, I'm just going to add, oops. Oh, that's okay, we can do that. That's the parking automation chat channel, but let me make a voice. I was actually wanting to make a voice channel. Okay, there's the voice channel. Let me do another 2 voice channels. Okay, so I think you should be able to see those voice channels now. And let me just, if you want to move into them, the appropriate ones, that would be good. I'm going to put together the text channels now, in case Kyle needs to chat. And then, what's the other one? Fridge automation. And if you want a different name, just let me know. I will change the names. Okay. I'm assuming you will have access. So if you just want to each move to your appropriate voice channel, and then I'll come into each voice channel and have a quick chat with each team.
Okay.
Okay, Bright and yeah.
I'm trying to find out which one it is.
Right, so it should be under the capstone area. Let me just check that you've got access to capstone. You should have access to capstone. You should see. Sorry?
Yeah, I see, the capstone discussion or the material.
Well, you should also see in the same area, you should see 3 text channels for each of the 3 projects and 3 voice channels.
Okay, I see it.
Yeah? So choose your voice channel and go there. Okay, so this is the fridge automation, and I apologize if that's the wrong name, so feel free to let me know if there's a better name.
Otherwise known as the best project.
Of course.
Yeah, we'll come up with something sick. We'll call it cool.
Yeah, and that's usually a good thing to do. Get a better name, right? The names I tend to come up with tend to be very prosaic and boring. So come up with something
No,
good.
never, Professor. Not getting yourself mixed up.
So yeah, have a talk amongst yourselves about the actors and maybe the high level use cases. Normally on a use case diagram, there's about absolute maximum of 9 ellipses. More normally it's about 4 or 5. Once you get more than 9, that tends to be making it too complicated and nobody understands the diagram. Even once going above 5, it can get a little confusing. So have a think about that. Okay?
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the aim is to for this group to for next week to come up with a use case diagram, and the idea is that that's got the actors, and I've made a first cut at trying to identify the actors in the what I did earlier, and then what are the functions? And normally you don't want that many functions. The absolute maximum number of ellipses on the diagram should be about 9. More normally it's about 4 or 5. What are the, just capture the key functions that the home security system needs to do. And then I'll talk.
And is that 9 in total, based off the function and the other type of functions, or is it 9 each?
No, it'll be 9 in total, right? Absolute maximum. Once it gets 9, or the diagram tends to get very confusing. So I usually try.
And the shall statements, correct?
Oh well, no. It could be that the shall statements, that each use case addresses more than one shall statement. Okay, so it might be that the 2 or 3 shall statements are captured in one of your ellipses. It may not be. It depends on the system. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to move on to parking automation. Okay, so I'm going to have to get Jake. Hello. I'm going to have to get Jacob and or the other Michael to join this group. But the idea is that we need to get you need to agree on the actors. And I made a first cut earlier for each group. And then the other thing is to figure out what the use cases are. And normally the maximum number of ellipses use cases that you want on the diagram is about 9. More normally it's about 4 or 5. And the
Write that down.
Yeah, and then the it's probable that each of your shall statements, it's probable that each use case might capture 2 or more shall statements, right? So the use cases tend to be at a higher level of abstraction than the shall statements.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good. 9. And do you want us? Well, I guess I shared it through the thing, through the text channel. So I guess you can see the Lucid Spark. We haven't put anything on it yet, obviously, but.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. Yeah. Did you hear the professor talking? I'm not hearing him.
Yeah, he's talking.
Yeah.
I'm not hearing him at all.
You're not hearing me at all? Oh no.
Leave and rejoin. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I don't hear him.
I use Discord a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if maybe if I leave and rejoin.
Well, I can hear you. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you too, but the professor, I don't hear him what he's saying.
Okay, I'll be the mediator. I got this.
That's good.
Yeah. So I mean,
So-
I'm done with what I was going to say, what I was saying. So
Okay. In which case, then I'll just relay it on to Fahim and figure it out from there.
Yep, that sounds good. Okay.
Thank you.
No worries. Bye bye.
Oh,
I'm
hi
not sure
again.
he's back. Yep.
Yeah, hi. If you want to,
I don't know. Does he hear me? I don't hear him at all.
I can hear Fahim quite happily.
He can hear you.
But I don't hear him.
So I'm done with what
It's
I
okay.
wanted.
You the translator. You let me know what he's saying.
Okay, I will.
So Kyle, I'm done. So if you want to continue talking with Fahim, that's okay. But no need to come back to the classroom. Okay.
Okay. I real quick, since you're here.
Yep.
I can't remember. Did you say we all have to make our own, or just one for the group?
One for the group.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. You as well.
Hi. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm done. So if you want to continue and think about the use case diagram, the aim is for the whole group to submit one use case diagram. I'll make an assignment in Blackboard shortly with the appropriate people on the list. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
Theorizing.
As far as I'm concerned, we're done with class today. You feel free to continue talking about the use case diagram, but what I would like is for everybody to agree on the use case diagram, and then as a group submit that into Blackboard so we can talk about it next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
Sounds good.
feel free to submit something earlier, and so I can give feedback. I am going to be pretty busy next week, not as busy as this week, so I should have time to give feedback. Okay.
I think we've already sort of narrowed down a time for us to meet next week before class.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, have a good weekend.
You too.
Yep. Bye bye.